I'm here. There I am. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sabbath services here at Tomorrow's Church of God. For our first song today, if everybody would please turn to page number 134 and stand. We are going to sing, if I can get there, To God Be the Glory. Now, this is on 2 pages, just FYI. Page 134. Great start. Now, if we'll turn over to page number 17, we're going to sing Come Ye Thankful People Come, after which we'll get Mr. Ron Harmon to do our opening prayer. Page number 17. Thank you. And now for our opening prayer, Mr. Ron Harmon.
Our Father in heaven, we come before you today, Father, to honor you and to ask you for your blessings upon your people. We thank you for the gathering here that we have today. We thank you for your people throughout the world, Father, who desperately try to follow your will. And we thank you for all the blessings that we already have received. And just be with us, strengthen us, guide us in your way and your words, and just look upon us in favor as we gather, and we ask your presence among us. And we ask this in your Son's name, let thy will be done.
Thank you, Ron. A couple of announcements this morning. It says, good morning and welcome to tomorrow's Church of God, not yesterday's Church of God, and welcome to all of our online viewers. All of our online viewers can download today's scriptures for the main message. Go to our website under audio and video, select the scripture handout, and you'll find a PDF file that you can print out right there. Also, for all of our online viewers, however you're watching us, we are available on several platforms. We're on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, and Roku. And on Roku, we are under The Sabbath Channel. Please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, share with your friends, and this will help get the word out, help increase all of our online presence. We are now in the 8th month of the Messiah's year. The new moon was sighted Monday, October the 16th. New moon date is the 17th of October. If you'd like one of our 2024 calendars or booklets, simply send your address and an email. And that email address to send to is tomorrowtcog@gmail.com on your screen right now. You can also download the 2024 calendar PDF. Simply go to the website, and that is thetcog.com. Select literature, then calendars. Audio CDs are now available for most booklets. And now the dates in the calendar are subject to change because they're based on the physical observations. If you'd like to get part of our New Moon group alert, you can get hold of Ron and he can get you on there. To ask your Bible study questions today or simply make comments, simply go online under TCOG Streaming. Ask your questions in the comment section, and Ron will be manning the online computer. And now on your screen, you'll see the prayer list for this week. If you would please keep these members and their family in your prayers, I know that they would greatly appreciate it. All right, and I think that's all the announcements for now. On to the Bible study. Thank you, Billy. We're covering Deuteronomy. Today we're going to be doing Deuteronomy number 3, or chapter 3. And as a reminder, the first 3.5 chapters or so are a review. Moses talking to the Israelites who are about to go into the Promised Land and giving them a kind of a synopsis or recap of what they've gone through for these last 40 years. So the title on mine says, Moses reminds Israel of how they defeated King Og of Bashan. And I'm reading out of the Names of God Bible. We will start in verse 1. It says, Next we turned and followed the road that goes to Bashan. King Og of Bashan and all his troops came to fight us at Adriel. Yahweh said to me, Don't be afraid of him. I'll hand him, all of his troops, and his land over to you. Do to him what you did to King Sihon of the Amorites, who ruled Heshbon. Verse 3. So Yahweh, our Elohim, also handed King Og of Bashan and all of his troops over to us. We defeated him, leaving no survivors. At that time, we captured all of his cities. There wasn't a city we didn't take. We captured a total of 60 cities. The whole territory of Argob, the kingdom of Og in Bashan. All of these cities were fortified with high walls and double-door gates with bars across the gates. We also captured a large number of unwalled villages. We claimed them all for God, destroying every city, including men, women, and children, as we did with King Sihon of Heshbon. However, we did loot the cities, taking all of the cattle and goods. In verse 8, we took the land of the Amorite king, east of the Jordan River, from the Arnon Valley to Mount Hermon. The Sidonians call Mount Hermon by the name Saron, and the Amorites call it Senir. We took all the cities of the plateau of Gilead and all of Bashan as far as Salak and Edrei, cities of Og's kingdom in Bashan. Of the Rephaim, only King Og of Bashan was left. His bed was made of iron and was more than 13 feet long and 6 feet wide. It is still in the Amorite city of Rabbah. Verse 12. At the time we took possession of the land, I gave the tribes of Reuben and Gad the land north of Erol, near the Arnon Valley, and half of the mountain region of Gilead with its cities. I gave the rest of Gilead and all of Bashan ruled by Og to half of the tribe of Manasseh. The whole territory of Argob in Bashan used to be called the land of the Rephaim. Jair, a descendant of Manasseh, took the whole territory of Argob as far as the border of the Gershurites and the Maccathites. And the settlements in Bashan he named Havoth Jar after himself. This is still their name today. I gave Gilead to Machir. I gave the tribes of Reuben and Gad some of Gilead from the Arnon Valley. The middle of the valley is the border to the Jabbok River, which is the border of Ammon. Their lands include the plains around the Jordan River. The western border was the river from the Sea of Galilee to the Sea of the Plains, the Dead Sea, which is near Mount Pisgah on the east. I gave the tribes of Reuben and Gad and half of the tribe of Manasseh this command. Yahweh, your Elohim, has given you this land so that you can take possession of it. All your soldiers must be ready for battle when they cross the Jordan River ahead of the other Israelites. I know you have a lot of livestock. Your wives, children, and livestock must stay here in the cities that I gave you. Your soldiers will go with the other Israelites until they take possession of the land Yahweh, your Elohim, is giving them on the other side of the Jordan River. Then they will have a place to rest as you have. After that, each of you may go back to the land I gave you. I also gave Joshua this command. You have seen with your own eyes everything that Yahweh your Elohim has done to these two kings. Yahweh will do the same to all the kingdoms on the other side of the Jordan River where you are going. Don't be afraid of them, because Yahweh your Elohim himself will fight for you. Verse 23. Then I pleaded with Yahweh, Adonai Yahweh, you have only begun to show me how great and powerful you are. What kind of God is there in heaven or on earth who can do the deeds and the mighty acts you have done? Please let me go over and see the beautiful land on the other side of the Jordan River, those beautiful mountains in Lebanon. Verse 26, Yahweh was angry with me because of you, so he wouldn't listen to me. Yahweh said, that's enough out of you. Don't talk to me anymore about this. Go to the top of the Mount Pisgah and look west, north, south, and east. You may look at the land, but you will never cross the Jordan River. Give instructions to Joshua, encourage and strengthen him, because he will lead the people across the Jordan River, and he will help them take possession of the land you see. So we stayed in the valley near Beth Peor. All right. Comments and questions? Yes, ma'am. On 5?
On 5.
Uh-huh.
That all the cities were fortified with high walls and double door gates with bars across. I mean, can you imagine that? Yahweh, anything is possible with all that?
Exactly. Yeah, I can't imagine that. I mean,
just
you've
to
got
show
bow
the
and arrow,
power.
spears, and I guess other primitive weapons, and you're going to go attack all these cities that are fortified with walls and iron gates and everything. But as to your point, there's nothing he can't do for you. That's a great comment. Basically, that's what we've seen, through this whole 5 books here.
What the power, mighty power he has.
The mighty power that he has, absolutely.
It's just something amazing. That wow.
It's absolutely
Doesn't matter
amazing.
what you have. If he's not on your side. Doesn't matter what. You're gonna lose.
Exactly. That's a great comment on there. Bill, you able to hear? Okay, you gave us a look, so I wanted to make sure. Or that just look for me, I don't know. What are the comments? I do want to make a quick comment while y'all are looking and going through there. So I want to say thank you to Johnny. Johnny sent me a video this week, which was very, very helpful to get a better visual picture of the chapters that we've been going through, chapter 2 and chapter 3. Very helpful. The name of the video is Ruth the Israelite, and it's about the most detailed map I've seen of how they came in, where they came in, the route that they took, how they took people over, what areas were given to Reuben and Gad and Manasseh before they crossed in. So I highly recommend it, and Johnny, thank you so much for sending it over to me, because it really puts these last 2 chapters in a better perspective, and so you can, at least in my mind, I could see it and go through it. So that was very helpful. Thank you. Yes, sir.
It's very important to understand that, what is going through. What we're reading so far is that Messiah has to come through,
Yep.
And he has to be a king of the Jews. And he cannot be a foreigner king,
Right.
in the sense of saying. But to kind of add to that, I want to bring up, if we can go to Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 3.
Okay, I don't have it on me, so you have to read it for me.
Okay, well, give me a second to...
So it's Deuteronomy 23, what?
Verse 3.
Verse 3. And while we're going through that, Billy, if you'll put up the first picture. So I got this from that video, and it shows the correlation. So this is more on what we saw in chapter 2, where they went into Sihon of the Amorites. It took over the Amorites right above the Moab, and there's a name of a city right there in the corner. I can't remember, Jezreel or something like that.
Canaan.
No, on the right-hand side of the corner, close to Anan and the Amorites and Moab in that corner.
Bashan.
Sean, I don't think that's actually. You know what? I got it. I was smart enough to print it out myself. Let me take a look. Jahaz is the name I was looking for.
Oh, it ain't on there.
It's not on the.
You made that up.
It's actually. I've got the same one, so it's right here. All right, so you see that? So this is what you're seeing on the screen, and right in this portion right here is Jahaz. And it says, and I don't know if you remember last week, it was talking, it said, we went to Jahaz and then sent word to Sihon, the king, to say, hey, let us travel the king's road. They went to this part because they weren't allowed to go and mess with the Moabites or the Edomites, and even the Ammonites in the top right, because those lands were given to them by God. So he said, don't disturb them. So they went around and stayed in that city, and the Bible clearly says they stayed in that city when they asked for permission to go through. and that's where Sihon came with his armies to attack them, and that's where they fought.
Yeah.
So if you look at the second one, Billy, you put up that second one. The Amorites' territory then became the Israelite territory on there, and that's where we were at the end of chapter 2. Chapter 3 goes on in where you have Bashan at the top. That's the land of Og, King Og, and they went up into King Og to Mount Haran, I think is where they went up to on the top part. So they went in through that little opening between Moab and Ammon, and took over the Amorites, and then went north and took over the King Og. What was he? I can't remember what he was.
I think he was from Bashan.
Bashan? Yeah, he was from Bashan, but what they were, the Rephaim? I think that's what they were called. Yeah, the Rephaim on there. And then if you pull up that third picture, Billy, those lands then got split up by Moses. And we're talking about in this chapter where he gave Reuben, the Ammon, up to can't remember there's a river that goes through that he gave, and then he gave Gad from there up to the next river, and then Manasseh took the top portion. And what's key about this is, although he gave these 2.5 tribes these lands, and they didn't go into the promised land, they still required them to provide the troops. So their troops had to make a pledge to say, okay, we're going to leave our families and go with you when you go across the Jordan into the land of Canaan to fight with you. So it's actually called out in Joshua 22 verse 1 where he released them, where Joshua released these troops to go back to their land after they had conquered everything. Yes, ma'am.
This is a little bit off of the rabbit hole.
Okay.
But can you put that map back up again?
Which one? I got 1, 2, and 3.
It doesn't matter. Either one.
Billy,
Which one you want?
Either one.
let's put in,
There's 3.
there's 3.
Okay. Where the land of Canaan is.
Uh-huh.
Canaan?
Yep.
Canaan?
Canaan, the Canaanites.
Okay. Is that currently Gaza?
That's currently Israel.
That's Israel.
Yeah.
Gaza?
Gaza's down on the bottom left. If you
The
can,
Gaza Strip is between Israel and the sea.
correct. And if you pull up the first one,
Is it further
I'm sorry, the
south?
second picture.
It's kind of right dead east of where that sea.
Yeah, so see, this gives you a little better idea. It's down the bottom left-hand corner of where by the sea, actually the sea and the letter C, to the left of the letter C. There is where Gaza's at currently. The bottom of Gaza goes all the way to the Egyptian border. Yeah.
But my point is, Gaza Strip is within Canaan. Canaan.
Correct.
Canaan.
Well, yes.
I'm sorry, I have trouble. Canaan,
Canaan.
the Canaan land.
It is.
Gaza Strip is within that.
That's correct. Yeah. Yeah. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
I know you can't answer this. but
I can
it's
make
a
something
lot
up. I'm just kidding.
No, I don't think you can. But why do you think God picked this particular place? Why is this so special? Why did He have to wipe out all these people to get this land for Israel?
So, a couple. I see everybody. I see a couple hands come up. Let me give you my thing, and then we'll go on. So, this is the land He promised Abraham. I believe Abraham was a Chaldean, which is from the. On this is kind of, from my understanding, is a little bit northeast in this area. So he was familiar with this area. He promised them, and then in this area, you had a lot of pagan worship, right? Just like in Egypt, it was also very fertile. They called it the land of milk and honey, and so he wanted to rid this land of the paganism and give it to them. Now, why? I'm not sure. Ron had his hand up.
Pure speculation.
Pure speculation.
But I really believe that Jerusalem, Mount Moriah, that was where the Garden of Eden was.
I've heard that speculation on there, and that's also where Abraham went to sacrifice his son Isaac. There was another thing that happened specifically on there, and I can't remember.
Well, it was the threshing floor there.
The threshing floor, yeah, city of David. So why is this particular piece of property so special to God? You were correct. I can't answer that question.
For over 400 years, all this paganism has erupted in large amounts, and he needs to clean that area out because it was theirs before, and he wanted.
Well, it wasn't theirs before. He told Abraham he was going to give it to him, basically for like his reward for his family to go to, and so. Again, why he didn't pick Texas? I don't know. I think Texas is a pretty good place. But this place is even more special than Texas. That's hard to believe, I know, but
Well, it looks so desertous on the TV all the time. I just can't imagine it being the milk of honey, and all this other stuff.
well, I believe it's still very fertile. Olive trees are going like crazy. They grow. There's you have all these rivers that, and if you see on the map, Billy, if you put one of those maps back up, you'll see all these rivers that flow towards it. So you got good water source. Now the Dead Sea, I'm like, oh, what are you going to do with that? But you got salt. I mean, it's a great.
You also have all the bounty from the sea.
All the bounty from the sea, exactly. Great comment. Yes, sir.
And also that, Jesus had to be born there in Jerusalem. So in that, Satan, he wanted that property. He was trying, like you said before, he was blocking,
Right.
blocking God from entering that location.
I don't think you can block God, but he's pretty.
But, what he,
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, giving you a little bit of a hard time there.
Yes, and of course, you have the giants, and with all the pagan going on, and these people, the first time around, they said, we're not. We decided not to go in there,
Yeah, they were scared,
So
and that's
they were
why they had to go
So they didn't-
in the desert for 40 years.
They weren't afraid enough, because I guess what God should have done through a lightning bolt, kind of waking these people up and say, hey, I'm here with you. We can go into this land, but it's kind of like, how can I say it? You're gonna have to go on your own. Trust me.
Right,
Have
so they
faith
put a
in me.
faith, exactly. Ron wants to make a comment on that.
Okay.
I think they were stretching it a little bit when they came back and said that the land was filled with giants or something like that, because whatever Joshua and them eventually went over, there's no record of them encountering giants. They were encountering other tribes and stuff, pagan people and stuff.
Right.
God told them drive out.
Well, also, I mean, they were very massive too, right? And so now the King Og in here, it talks about his bed specifically being 6 feet wide by 13, and I think that's on the small side of a cubit, because if you've got a King James or New King James, I believe it says cubits, and it says a standard cubit. Well, is that 18 inches? Is that 22 inches? Which one was it, right? And I believe this is going off of an 18-inch cubit to get to this size. So it could have been bigger.
Well, it could have
Yeah.
been. And, I mean, there's a lot of evidence that suggests that there was.
Well, you had Goliath. Yeah, I mean, there's
That,
a lot of large people.
Then when you look at Baalbek, the city of Baalbek,
Mhm.
and how it's constructed, I mean, the largest carved stone in the world was sitting there.
Oh, wow.
Largest what?
Carved stone.
Carved stone.
Even bigger than the ones in South America?
Yeah.
Well, not, is it South America or Mexico? Because I know one of those places, there's something like 130 tons.
Baalbek has-
Is it 200 tons? It's something massive that we couldn't pick it up and move it today.
What are the base stones of the Egyptian pyramids?
Those are tiny compared to these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, these stones were the base of the temple that was built for Saturn. the god.
Okay.
And they
Is that
showed
the
one of the
temple?
guys standing on the end of it. And he was like this, and the
Like a
stone
cake.
was like this,
Yeah.
and it's like 40, 60 feet long.
Wow.
It's just massive.
I don't know how they did it.
How they do it.
Yeah, that's one of the mysteries still.
That's the $1 million question.
Yeah, exactly.
You figure it out, you're gonna be rich.
Yeah, I had to, somehow, some way, it had to spook them. Maybe it was the pagan that was going on, along with the giants
Right.
there and everything. I mean, they were doing some terrible things.
They were doing very terrible things.
They're gone in there, spied, and checked everything out. Just saying, I don't want any part of this. Why do we need to go there? Kind of deal.
Well, we went through Exodus and Leviticus, and we skipped Numbers, and maybe we'll do that next time. But they weren't the most faithful people, even through all this. You said, why didn't you put a lightning bolt and wake them up? He basically did that on the mountain, right? And it scared them so much they said, oh, don't talk to us anymore. Just talk to Moses. So, no, with his, and I think that was more grand, more profound than a single lightning bolt, right? For him to come down on the mountain with the smoke and the fire and everything else. So they, hard-headed people, right? I'm hard-headed, but I don't know if I'm quite that hard-headed. Actually, Billy's saying yes, I am that hard-headed. So, and that's why they had to get rid of all of them. They brought the snakes in, who killed several people or many people, and that was one thing too. That's one thing I still don't get. Well, and I guess we'll get into that with numbers, but with the snake, he then had to make a snake idol for them to look at, and they did it. They had no problem with it. So I don't think it was the paganism as much, because they were so engrossed in the paganism in Egypt, and that was one of the problems, is they couldn't leave it behind as they were going through.
Maybe this was a lot worse than what they'd seen over there in Egypt. But let me read this.
Oh yeah, you were talking about Deuteronomy 22?
23 verse
23. Verse 3, okay.
It says, "An Ammonite or a Moabite shall not enter the assembly of the Lord, even to the 10th generation. None of his descendants shall enter the assembly of the Lord forever."
Right.
Being that,
Now, I'd heard too, and I know where you're going with that on that. And again, the video online, it's called Ruth the Israelite. It's very, very educational. He's got a different accent, but he's got great information. Listen to the information he's got. And again, I haven't seen it drawn out this profoundly or this easily to get a better idea of everything. So I'm with you. But I believe there was 10 generations from Ruth to the Messiah.
To David, it's only 3 generations, so, to Ruth, I don't know how many generations there was.
Right. Isn't that what we've heard in the past?
Well, you're talking about at least another several generations.
Yeah. I'd heard, and again, I haven't done the research, as we go through, we'll try to do more research on it, but I'd heard that he was through the 10th generation on it. So, but yeah, that's a great point on there. It talks about the Amorites and the Moabites.
Yeah, because God cannot go back on his word.
Absolutely. He's the God of laws, and he makes it work in his favor.
Yes, exactly.
Great comment, though. That's a great comment on there. And it'll go along with that video that he's talking about. Any other comments or questions?
Where did you find the video?
Just on YouTube. On YouTube, yeah. It's the video is again. It's just on YouTube. Johnny sent it to me, and thank you again for sending that to me. But it's got believe the title is Ruth the Israelites on there. But it goes through what we've been covering the last couple of weeks with these chapters of how their route through this area and how they took over. So it was really educational on there. All right. And again, we've been going through this recap. We got a little bit more recap in chapter 4, and then we'll get on to the new stuff. But it's a good reminder, right? And he's basically, again, he's telling this second generation of Israelites what happened and how they got to this place, and how none of the people who came out of Egypt over the age of 20 are with them today because of what they've done. And that's what we're going through here on it. Let's see, verses 18 through 20. Oh, I'm sorry. That one was what covered with Joshua keeping track of the troops. So in Joshua 22, verse 1, goes back to the verses 18 through 20, where he brought the troops out of Manasseh, half of Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben, to make sure that they fought. So they were on deployment with the Israelites until they got done, until Joshua released them in chapter 22. One of the key things on there is, we're going through, and everything's kind of being transferred over to Joshua, but not everything that Moses was in charge of was transferred to Joshua, right? So basically, Joshua is going to be charged with to be the commander of the armies. We still have all the religious portions of this that Moses was doing, which has been transferred over to Aaron and his sons, the Levites. And so Joshua's main goal here is going to be, again, the top general for the Israelite army as they go through on there. Was there a question? Oh, no. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, one other thing is, can you kind of explain to everyone, but why Moses wasn't able to enter
Oh.
Coming,
Yeah, so in verses 23 through 28 or so, it talks about Moses reminds why he can't enter. And he was supposed to speak to the rock to give them water, and he ended up striking the rock, which then gave water. But because he disobeyed God's one command right there, he was not allowed to go into the promised land.
Then why he had to use the rod? Why did Moses have to use the rod? Because everything I kind of come to understand is he used a rod for coming out of Egypt. He used that rod on everything, and he just didn't have enough faith by just speaking it. He would have. He would say, if I were to hit this rock, water's going to come out. But without hitting it with a staff and talking, he just didn't have enough faith that water's going to come out.
Right. He might have had a momentary loss in his faith on there and then did what he wasn't supposed to do. Yes, ma'am.
Were you supposed to just tap the rock?
Just speak to it.
Oh, this one he was supposed
Yeah.
to speak.
This is the second one. He was supposed to speak to it.
So he had to tap it?
Yeah. Yeah, and this one, and that's why God got mad with him and wouldn't let him go. And you see him pleading in verse 23. It says, then I pleaded with Yahweh Adonai, Yahweh, you have only begun to show me how great and powerful you are. So even Moses, everything that he had gone through and been on the mountain with him and seen him write with his own finger, is learning more and more and wants to be part of this. But God is a little angry. I got to watch the words I say. He's pretty angry with them because he says in verse 26, that's enough out of you. Don't talk to me anymore about this. And I think I've said that to my children before, and they ask over and over and over. And that's to the point where the Father had gotten, or Yahweh had gotten with Moses and said, I don't want to hear it anymore. And came up. He's like, no more. And I believe at that point, Moses realized his opportunity to go into the promised land was over. So go ahead.
Ron had many sermons about who is the rock.
Right.
That's to represent Jesus, and he had to die for us one time. So only one time that rock should have been struck, and that's it. And for Jesus died for our sins one time. We don't have to be going to a sacrifice.
Yeah, no, that's a great comment on there. Yeah, the rock represented Messiah, and it didn't have to be beat over and over. It was one time, and then provide the sustenance that we needed. So I got the international sign for wrapping up. So thank you all very much for the discussion on Deuteronomy 3. If you had a comment or a question online, I'm sorry we didn't get to it. Send it in, and we'll try to get to it before we start chapter 4 next week. But now we get to do another song. If everyone would please turn to page number 86 and stand. We're going to sing We Praise Thee, O God, Our Redeemer. And after which, we got a special guest coming to us all the way from San Antonio. He's making the big long trip on the internet. Mr. Travis Williams will be giving the main message today. Page number 86.
Worship thee.
Thank you. Please be seated. And for our main message today, Mr. Travis Williams.
Good afternoon and happy Sabbath to everybody. I'd like to talk today about negative thoughts and where they come from and what we can do about them. So I just wondered, have you ever known anybody that just was negative all the time and just totally dwelt in negativity? And even if they had something that seemed positive to say, there was still, it was like a slap in the type of thing where there's always, they just got some negativity about them. People are always finding fault with people and gossiping about how bad this guy or that guy is. I saw one time, I don't remember where I saw it, but it was a quote, and the guy said, "It's easy to spot a yellow car when you're thinking about yellow cars. It's easy to spot opportunity when you're looking for it," and that's true. "And it's easy to find reasons to be mad when you're thinking about being mad or how somebody, messed you up or screwed you over somehow." And the verse I'm referencing is going to be Proverbs 23:7, and not necessarily, I'm not going to turn there, but I'm just, you can if you want to check out what I'm saying, but I just kind of paraphrase it. It says, "As a man thinks, so he is." So if you're always dwelling in negative, then you're going to be a negative type of person. And just like the last thing of that quote I said, it's easy to find reasons to be mad when you're thinking about it. So it's always a good idea to not dwell on those type of things. And later on in the message, I'll get to the point, where it says, think of the things you're supposed to be thinking of, things that are good, things that are pure, things that are kind. So, I kind of wonder, where do evil thoughts come from? Where do these negative thoughts come from? And are they always from Satan directly? Sometimes that is the case, and he is the catalyst for that. Think about Judas, the one who betrayed Christ. And let's go to John chapter 13 and verse 27. And I'm cheating. I was already just about there. I know y'all got to look for it, but I'll give you a second. Oop, well, and I'm in 12. Yeah, that's what I get for trying to cheat. So 13:27. And this is at what a lot of people call the Last Supper. But Jesus had just given Judas the bread. And I'll go back up to verse 26. Jesus answered, "It is he whom I shall give a piece of bread when I have dipped it." And having dipped the bread, he gave it to Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon. Now, after the piece of bread, Satan entered him, talking about Judas. Then Jesus said to him, "What you must do, do quickly." So this is definitely a case where Satan did. It says he entered into Judas and caused him to do this evil thing. Now, he went, and after that, he went to go tell the priests and the people that were looking for Jesus and the guys that had paid him the 30 pieces of silver, that he went to go tell him where he's going to be at, and told him that, well, there will be a sign that, I'll kiss him on the cheek and then you'll know who it is. Because Jesus wasn't somebody really that stood out from the crowd. And as a matter of fact, I I kind of call this the ugly Jesus theory, because one of the prophecies about him was that he just wasn't going to be all that good looking. He wasn't going to be a great handsome man, and the reason for that was that so no women would desire him. And I don't know if that just would have been too much of a temptation, but for whatever reason, God decided to do it like that. So whether the thoughts come from Satan or not, sometimes, like I said, in the case of Judas, it was, And the groundwork for that was already laid out for Satan, in that Judas was said to be a thief. And we can find that in John chapter 12 and verse 5 through 6, which is where I was at when I told you all to go to chapter 13. But here in verse 12, chapter 12, verse 5 through 6. And this is when the lady had washed Jesus' feet and dried it with her hair and put this fragrant oil on him. One of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, who would betray him, said, "Why was this fragrant oil not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief and had the money box, and he used to take what was put into it. So he was already there. He was already down the path with Satan. So the further we are from God, the more vulnerable we are to Satan's attacks. Now, Satan doesn't always send those thoughts. Lots of times they come from our own mind and sinful heart. One thing I would like to point out is that it doesn't take Satan to sin or to have bad thoughts. We have free will. And if it took Satan to give those thoughts to us, then I have to ask the question, well, who gave Satan the thoughts that he thought he could overthrow God and become like him and become the master of heaven and earth? So free will, allows us to have thoughts that will creep in, and they don't always come from Satan. But like I said, lots of times they come from our own mind and sinful heart. Now, when you're thinking of negativity, think about what the apostles were going through. What would it have been like to be an apostle after the crucifixion? Some stayed around the family of Jesus, and others just got scared and they ran away. And I wonder what it would have been like for them, knowing that he had been crucified. Now, having become more aware of everything that Jesus had said during his ministry that was going to happen, and having experienced everything that they experienced, I wonder what that next few days would have felt like to the ones that ran. And then, even more, I wonder what it would have been like for those same people after the resurrection. Okay, the crucifixion, they were all down and they thought, it's all over. And then the resurrection, and they're looking back like, oh, golly, man, I just ran off. I ran away. I had no faith. I how bad would have thought? Think about negative thoughts of that. And that's things that are coming from their own minds, and they, not necessarily, something Satan put there, but just because they were thinking and probably, feeling guilty about the fact that they didn't believe him even after they had seen all the great things. They were aware by their own witness or from others who witnessed the raised Jesus. And what would have been like for the ones who doubted and fled, knowing now that he was resurrected? Maybe they felt like they were a disgrace. And probably during those first few days or weeks, they wondered how in the world did they get to the place where they experienced so much doubt? They had given up after Jesus told them everything that was going to happen, and it all came true, and yet they still had that doubt and ran away. They didn't stick with him, and they knew it. It was eating at them. I'd like to go into Matthew chapter 28 and verses 16 through 20. Just about there. It says, Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee, to the mountain which Jesus had appointed for them. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some still doubted. And Jesus came and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you. And then he gives a promise that says, lo, I am with you always, even until the end of the age. And now, it says right there, some still doubted, even though he was back in the flesh and they worshiped. Now, the kind of one of the most famous doubters is Thomas, and we even got a name for him, called him Doubting Thomas. And he had said, well, I'm not going to believe it until I can stick my fingers in the holes where the nails were and jam my hand up in the side where the spear went. And when Jesus did appear to him, among others, Jesus told him, hey, here I am. You see it says hands and feet. We know it wasn't pierced through the hands. It was the wrist, because hands wouldn't have been able to support him. But I'm just going off on a tangent there. And Thomas was really sorrowful that he did not believe. And he just, I don't know what that would have been like. It's hard for me to imagine the weight of guilt that might cause. But Jesus forgave him. That's what Jesus does. Jesus forgives. That's his job. That's just who he is being part of God. He is love. And so even Peter, he had some doubts. And I'd like to go into, go to John chapter 21 and verses 15 through 17. '21, 15 through 17. And we've all heard this, and we know this story. So when they had eaten breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these? And he said, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And this is the same Peter who had denied him 3 times, right before his crucifixion, when Jesus was being tried. So Jesus said to him, feed my lambs. Then he said to him again a second time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? And he said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, tend my sheep. Then he asked him the third time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? And Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know all things, and you know that I love you. And Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. I'm going to keep going. So most assuredly, I say to you, when you were younger, you girded yourself and walked where you wished. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will gird you and carry you where you do not wish. And Jesus spoke this, signifying by what death he would glorify God, speaking of Peter. And when he had spoken this, he said to him, follow me. So Jesus had forgiven Peter for denying him, even though, and the 3 times. It wasn't just once, but, we know the story. People kept asking him, aren't you one of those disciples? Aren't you one of the apostles of Jesus here? And he finally got to the point where Peter was cursing. He says, no, I don't even know that man. Get away from me. Leave me alone. I don't have any part of that. And then, of course, the rooster crowed. And there's a lot of this going on in this message today. He was godfully sorry. And so the negativity, how he must have felt when he said that. So Peter was forgiven. And how wonderful this should have been. But Peter, being Peter, and I love the guy so much, he's just, and I've given other messages, and I bring up Peter a lot because he's just he's a dude that's out there. He wants to do the right things, but sometimes his mouth gets carried away with him, and sometimes his thoughts go one way or the other, and sometimes he even takes physical actions. I mean, he cut off that one guy's ear when they came to arrest Jesus. But so even though it should have been so wonderful that Peter was forgiven, but Peter, being the guy that Peter is that I just described, he couldn't just accept that gift, but he had his little negativity. He turned to John and said, basically, well, what about him though? And I'll go ahead and read. It says, Peter, turning around, saw the disciple whom Jesus loved, and talking about John, who had leaned on his breast at the supper and said, Lord, and John had asked, Lord, who is the one who betrays you? Peter, seeing him, said to Jesus, but Lord, what about this man? And Jesus said, if I will that he remain till I come, what is that to you? You follow me. So Peter, after receiving this forgiveness, he turned around and says, well, okay, well, what about this guy over here? You know, what are you giving him? And Jesus says, don't worry about him. I'm telling you, follow me. It doesn't matter what he's doing. It doesn't matter what plans I've got for him. I'm telling you to follow me. So for 40 days after the resurrection, Jesus met and taught with his disciples about the kingdom of God. And we can see a little bit about this in Acts chapter 1, verses 4 through 8. Just a few pages over. Acts 1, verses 4 through 8. Being assembled together with them, he commanded them not to depart from Jerusalem, but to wait for the promise of the Father, which, he said, you have heard from me. For John truly baptized with water, but you shall be baptized with the Holy Spirit not many days from now. Therefore, when they had come together, they asked him, saying, Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? And he said to them, it is not for you to know times or seasons which the Father has put in his own authority. But you shall receive power when the Holy Spirit has come upon you, and you shall be witnesses to me in Jerusalem, in all Judea and Samaria, and to the end of the earth. And after that, they were on the mountain, and he ascended up into heaven after they saw the vision of him standing with Elijah and Moses. So after the ascension, the apostles did stay in Jerusalem as Jesus commanded them, and they waited. Now, it was during this time that they replaced the slot left open by Judas for the 12th apostle, and Matthias was chosen by lots. And I'm not going to go a lot into that, but they did replace the slot that was left open when Judas left. So, I mean, they had reason to be feeling some negativity. And as long as they were dwelling on it, it was hard and it's rough. And even after the good things happened, like I said, Peter, even after getting this positive message of forgiveness from Jesus, he still had to look at somebody else. He's still looking for, I don't know exactly what he was looking for, but it was almost like he couldn't accept that. And he had to find out, what's so great about that guy over there and what's great about him. And again, it just came down to, and we all need to understand this fact. It doesn't matter what person B is doing. It doesn't matter what person A is doing. It doesn't matter who's doing what. It's up to us to follow Jesus and do what he says, follow his commands to the best of our ability. Now, we're not always going to be, we're not always going to be able to do it. Sometimes we're going to fail. We won't always be successful in that. And that's something that Jesus realizes. And just like he forgave Peter, he will forgive you. He'll forgive me. He wants to forgive all of us. And at the end, the very end, after the millennium, and we're in the days of the great white throne judgment, that 100 years, of course, that's when everybody who's ever lived who hadn't received the Holy Spirit before, God says, I will put my Spirit in them. It's not going to be a matter of trying to learn and find out what's going on and have a choice about it. Now, the choice is still going to be there. Many people are going to have that, and they're going to see the truth, and they're going to see the beauty, but they just can't cause it to overwhelm their own physical desires in what we call the carnal man. So I was wondering, do you ever get mad when something good happens to somebody else? I like to play poker. It's a fun game. Now I know I'm not going to make a living out of it. I'm not even going to try and anything more than nickel and dime antes and blinds. That's just way outside of my comfort zone. But I do like the game. I played games all my life. It started with my parents and playing Monopoly and Sorry and Mousetrap and Candyland. I don't know if any of y'all remember Candyland. I ate that game up. No pun intended. Actually, that just came out that way. But I always liked games. So in poker, well, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and sometimes you have you got these great cards, and you think, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to bet. And then at the end of when the hand is over, and there's a guy still in there with you, and he flips over his cards, and he beat you, but you're wondering, well, how in the world was he sticking around with those stupid cards that he had when he didn't have anything until that final card was flipped over? And it's just like, you just, but poker is poker, and the river card counts just as much as the first card. But you see that, and it's like, you want to call him an idiot. You want to say, what's that? I usually just say, oh, well, man, good hand, and I slap myself in the head and think, well, okay, well, next time I'm going to get him. But so what if something happens though that didn't affect me? What if it didn't cost me a little money? We need to be careful what we say and how we act towards people, and especially people we don't really know. I've played poker with some guys that were acquaintances of the other people, and I didn't really know, but I was in there, and sometimes when a situation comes up, like I just said, one time I told a guy, I says, oh man, because I had him beat until the very last card, and then he won, and it was a big pot. It was probably about $15 whole dollars. And I was laughing. I says, oh God, I just want to punch you in the nose. Not really meaning it. Just, that's how I felt at that moment. And he looked at me, and his buddy looked at me, and it all got sorted out. I was like, no, look, I really don't want to punch anybody in the nose, but you got to be careful what you say, especially if you don't know somebody that well. But sometimes you don't get hurt by others and their fortune, but still you think maybe they didn't deserve it. And, well, that's not fair. Well, let me tell you a little something about fairness. Well, as a matter of fact, not me. Let's see what Jesus had to say about fairness. Let's turn to back to Matthew again, chapter 20, and verses 1 through 16. Matthew 20, 1 through 16. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. Now when he had agreed with the laborers for a denarius a day, he sent them into his vineyard. And he went out about the third hour and saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said to them, you also go into the vineyard, and whatever is right I will give you. So they went. Again, he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour, and he did the same thing. Saw some guys kind of loitering around. Says, "Hey, you want a job? Go over there, and I'll pay you what's right." And about the 11th hour, he went out and found others still standing by and said to them, "Why have you been standing here idle all day?" And they said to him, "Well, no one hired us." And he said to them, "All right, look, you go into this vineyard, and whatever is right, you will receive." So when evening had come, the owner of the vineyard said to his steward, "Call the laborers and give them their wages, beginning with the last to the first." And when those came who were hired about the 11th hour, they each received a denarius. But when the first came, they supposed that they would receive more, and they likewise received each a denarius. And when they had received it, they complained against the landowner, saying, "Well, these last men only worked 1 hour, and you made them equal to us who have borne the burden in the heat of the day." But he answered one of them and said, "Friend, I'm doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for a denarius?" It's kind of like a message I given, say what you mean, do what you say you're going to do. Take what is yours and go your way. I wish to give this last man the same as to you. Is it not lawful for me to do what I wish with my own things? Or is your eye evil because I am good? So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many are called, but few are chosen. So, these guys that have been working all day, they were like, "Oh, it's not fair. These guys only work this long. I should get more. It's not fair." And Jesus, the landowner of the vineyard said, "Hey, we had a contract. I told you I was going to give you a denarius for the day, and you agreed, and so here we are. Yeah, and don't tell me what I'm allowed to do with my own money. I am the owner here. It's not unlawful for me to do that." So, so we're talking about fairness, and I just want everybody to ask yourselves, and I've asked myself this question: do I want God to be fair? And you might think, well, yeah, but think about it. Really? Do you really want fairness from God? In James chapter 2 and verse 13, it says, "For judgment is without mercy to the one who has shown no mercy, and mercy triumphs over judgment." And also, back to Matthew again. I'm wearing out my Bible. Matthew 12 and verse 7. Can't find it. One more page. Okay, 12 and 7. It says, and he's quoting back, he's referring to Hosea 6:6, but here in Matthew 12 and 7, says, "But if you had known what this means," and he goes back, says, "I desire mercy and not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." And he was talking to the Pharisees who were trying to trap him and saying, "Hey, you're working on the Sabbath. You're doing these things that you're not supposed to do." And it says that, God is looking for mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. And just a little aside here. I didn't go and count these up, but I saw this, and apparently mercy in the Bible is talked about 276 times. Now, justice is spoken of a lot, but only about half of that, 136 times, where justice is talked about. So, pull it back around, do I want God to be fair with me? No, no. I want the mercy. I want the mercy, because if I'm going to get what's fair, if I'm going to get what I deserve, then be like, see you later. Good night, Irene. uh, so we should always be mindful of what it says in James chapter 4 and verse 7. And it's way in the back there. James 4 and 7. Therefore, submit to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Cleanse your hands, you sinners, and purify your hearts, you double-minded. I'll go ahead and go through verse 10. Lament and mourn and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to gloom. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he will lift you up. And I'm going to go head on, because it talks about judging others. So do not speak evil of one another, brethren. He who speaks evil of a brother and judges his brother speaks evil of the law and judges the law. But if you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver, we know who that is, who is able to save and also to destroy. Saying, who are you to judge another? So we just need to think about that. Submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Just like Judas had already, he wasn't resisting the devil. He was a thief. He had, he just wasn't really a good guy, and therefore it was easy for Satan to influence him, because as you think, so you are. Where your mind is at, that's where you are as a person. Very similar to, I don't remember the scriptures here, but Jesus, Jesus speaking about adultery, and says, if a man looks at a woman with lust in his heart, then that makes him an adulterer. It doesn't matter if he does the actual act or not, but if a man, sees a woman, or if a woman sees a man and wants to, and thinks, wow, I'd really like to get with them and do things I shouldn't. And the only thing stopping you is maybe that man or that woman says no. Or you're thinking about, what would be the consequences of that, Then, otherwise you would have done it. Well, in your heart, you are an actual adulterer. And that, again, is the difference between the carnal man and the spirit of man with the spirit of God in him. We have to always strive to defeat the carnal, defeat our body. Our bodies are carnal. Our bodies are animals. It's our mind that makes us different from them. So our body wants to run on instinct, but our mind is to keep that under control. The body is kind of like a horse. It gets us around, it gets us to where we want to go and gets us to the places we want to be so we can do the things we want to do. But we need to be in control of that horse and not let the horse control us. And then I would like to go, as the last scripture, I believe, Philippians chapter 4 and verse 8. It's after Ephesians. Chapter 4, verse 8. Well, these thin pages aren't not wanting to turn for me today. And what we should meditate on is, like I was saying earlier, finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. Look for the positives. Don't spend your time in negativity. Don't be trying to drag people down. Because what's going to happen is if they are, in fact, worse than you or me, then we're just going to be dragged down to the level where they're at, that we're talking smack about them because we become that same exact type of person. So meditate things that are praiseworthy, anything that's virtuous. Meditate on these things. And not only is it going to help your walk with God, but it's just going to help you in general throughout your life. Because I've certainly found that the more negative things I'm feeling when I've carried grudges and just held things against people, it would crop up and it'd be in the back of my mind, and I'd be sitting here, I'd be having a perfectly good day, and I'd be thinking about what this person or that person did to me, and all of a sudden, I'm just mad. I'm just so disjointed, and it takes a while to stop thinking about that. And I have these conversations in my head. I don't know if y'all do it, but I think probably everybody does. Oh, what I should have said was, and there's a whole Seinfeld episode about that, but but it's just one of those things. And so then one day I decided I was just going to give it all up. I was going to give it all to God, and just forgive these people for whatever slight that I felt like that they had done to me. And some of them were pretty brutal, but it's neither here nor there. I forgave them, and it was like a burden had just been lifted off of my shoulders. And I know people say that all the time, but it was true. My life became so much better, and I had such an easier time with things. I didn't get mad every time somebody passed me up on the freeway. I wasn't making rude gestures to people. Now, I have to admit, sometimes it's knee-jerk reaction. That's what happens when somebody cuts me off, or and that's something I got to work on. I'm not. So y'all pray for me about that, and I'm serious. Asking that because my temper, even since I was a little kid, my mom would tell me, say, your temper is really going to get you in trouble, Travis. And one time I was a little bitty kid, and I don't even know what I was mad about. I think I just decided, well, I'm just going to be mad. And I'm talking about 2, 3, 3, 4, wasn't even in school yet. And we had some little cartoon bird things that Mom had put up on the wall for me and my sister, and I just started ripping them down and ripping them apart, ripped the head off a little bird, and my mom said, why did you do that? And I remember saying, well, I was mad, and I was making noises while I was doing it, like ugh, ugh, ugh. And to be honest with you, I don't know what I was mad about. I really think I wasn't even really mad. I just decided that I was going to be mad. Little kids like that, they're always testing the boundaries, and I guess that's what I was doing. But just from my own experience, let me tell you, if you're able to forgive people and not carry grudges around, and not hold on to things that happened 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even 5 minutes ago, if you can just let that go and kind of give it up to God, then your life is going to be a whole lot better. So don't dwell in negatives, stay in the positives, and you're going to have a pretty good life. And God bless you all. And I hope this has reached someone who needed to hear it. And I think I probably needed to hear it myself. So God bless you, and have a good weekend.
Thank you very much for that message and sharing that with us. I was asked during my little break from here to give the title of that video that I talked about in the Bible study. The title of the video is Ruth the Israelite. And again, you can find it on YouTube if you want to watch it. But there you have it. Actually, there it is. Billy put it up on the screen. Okay, so now for our final song today, if everyone would please turn to page number 95 and stand. We're going to sing, O Thou, the Shepherd of Israel art, after which we'll get Mr. Billy Steppick to come do our closing prayer. Page number 95. Thank you. And now for our closing prayer today, Mr. Billy Steppick.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you as your people. We ask for dismissal from this Sabbath service. Thank you for this great message. You've provided physical food to nourish our physical bodies. We ask that you bless that food so it does so. Continue to guide, direct, and protect all of us as we go on this journey with you. And we go throughout the rest of the week. We ask for your protection. And we ask all of this through your Son, so let your will be done.